In today's fast-moving world and growing consumerist society, there is a huge social pressure on us to own and keep buying things. In fashion, this means that we are expected to keep up with the latest trends, own a lot of clothes so we don't repeat our outfits, get things we will only wear to that one special occasion, not thinking where our clothes end up after we are done with them. This leads to overproduction and excessive amount of waste, both of which have a harmful impact on our environment. Since the 1990s, growth of the multi-trillion-dollar garment industry has been fueled by so-called fast fashion, which, as the name suggests, requires high speed and low cost to keep up with the global appetite for newness. Fashion is often branded as the second most polluting industry in the world, after the oil and gas sector. 400% more clothes are produced today than 20 years ago. And to keep their expenses low, fast fashion brands rely on low-wage, overseas labor. These workers are underpaid and work in terrible conditions. It's time to ask ourselves, what is the true cost of that 8-pound shirt? To find out more, we went to the Pop London fashion boutique and asked the owner and fashion designer, Shazia Salim, to give us her perspective on sustainable and ethical fashion.
My name is Shazia Salim. I'm the designer and founder at Pop London. Pop London is an ethical and sustainable fashion brand and boutique based in London. I describe sustainable fashion as any sort of fashion collection that considers the planet, people, socioeconomic factors, and it should be really a consideration throughout the entire value chain and the production process of a collection and a garment. It's not just about one particular aspect, and people do get quite upset about that description, sustainable, and what is sustainable, what does it mean, and that there isn't one particular definition. But I think that's fine because it's quite broad, and I'm using surplus and dead stock fabrics and upcycling, but another company might do vintage and upcycle that, and that's also sustainable. Some people might want to work in other ways that are conscious of the effect on people and the planet, and there are multiple ways that people can be sustainable. Rental is one of them, and charity shopping is another, and I think that it's a bit restrictive and not helpful when it's confined to one particular description. But as long as for me, people are paid properly, ethics and sustainability go hand in hand for me, and it's about reducing waste and harm on the planet. Fast fashion is quite a complicated sort of entity, and I have a bit of a different perspective where fast fashion is really bad for the planet because it's causing overconsumption and it reduces the value of clothing. It commodifies it, almost like single-use plastic, where people would buy almost single-use clothing. Fast fashion is really bad for the environment and for the people who produce it because it's just always looking at overconsumption, producing at the lowest cost possible, and that means that people who produce at the start of the process get paid the least in that manufacturing process, and for the quality is terrible. Fast fashion is built in with a single-use or low-use lifespan, so you'll just be throwing that. Most fast fashion is made from fossil fuel-based fabrics like polyester, acrylic, nylon, and even sort of recycled polyester, still plastic, and a lot of those fibers then end up in the oceans through wash cycles and washing machines, or they end up in landfill because they can't be replaced or repaired. They don't have a resale value as well, so you can't really get rid of them in a vintage or sort of that kind of market. So it really is resulting in devastating ecological effects as well. Fast fashion serves a purpose for people on, say, a lower income, and it's a hobby, and fashion is really a creative endeavor for lots of people. It's how they express their identity, and I think that for me, I never start from a position of judging people with the choices that they make. It's just about education and evolution, and people will have sustainable considerations when they're ready for it. I don't like to sort of push it on to them. For me and my company, I'm not using brand new material at any stage of the design process. So all the fabrics and trims, such as buttons and any other fancy trims, are from a surplus or dead stock source. So I have done my own research. I have production bases in India, in Delhi and Jaipur, but also in London. And so I've done really thorough research on how to find sources where this fabric ends up, or to meet other manufacturers and buy their surplus dead stock material from them, because it's no longer of use to them and they don't see a value in that, and it'll probably end up being incinerated or end up in landfill or other harmful methods of disposal. So I'm finding those materials and putting all that research and effort in to find them. Then the clothing is cut and stitched to my design, and often I mean, I could pull out some styles, but sometimes every single component in a style is made from surplus and dead stock fabric, and it could be that other panels are from different sources, but I'll bring them together to make one design. The way that I design each season is that seasons have relevant colours and relevant patterns, but broadly speaking, one of the benefits in recent years is that there aren't real trends that take off, and so with pop I'm not completely trend-led based on that. So the way that I design is that I know broadly the kind of colours and patterns that I'm looking for, but my design process is a bit dynamic, so I can have a broad idea of the designs I want, but I'm dependent upon what I'm able to source in the market, and sometimes a fabric will take me a really long time and the season's gone and I won't find it, but that's okay. It's a bit of a challenge design-wise. And the opposite side, sometimes when I'm sourcing, I'll find fabric that I find that I can include in the collection and I find inspiration from, and then work backwards, from that fabric, and think, well, what would work really well? Should it be trousers? Should it be a dress? And work a bit backwards. So I kind of stay a bit flexible. It is restrictive, but I feel that it's a challenge, and if you're in creative industries and if you're a designer, then it's about embracing that and not being intimidated by it or being frustrated by that. It's just a challenge, and for any sort of problem there's always a solution, and I feel that as a designer it's just my job to deal with the restrictions that I've put on myself for a bigger goal, which is to be more sustainable. Sustainable fashion is considered quite expensive. What I've tried to do with pop is to keep the quality really high, but to keep the pricing broadly in high street prices to make it more price inclusive. But I do appreciate that it can seem a lot more expensive compared to fast fashion. The thing with sustainable fashion is that it's not made as a disposable item, and so quality is built into that product. So that makes it more expensive. Usually with sustainable brands, the quantity is a lot smaller than for fast fashion brands. So say for example, I might only make 30 of one dress, whereas a fast fashion brand would probably make from anywhere from 300 to 3,000 of each style, and some brands will make even more than that. So in production, that means that they can charge they'll get a much better price to produce those clothing than I will, because my quantities are a lot smaller. And the thing with fast fashion is that it's not a true reflection, it's not a true cost of that product, because for clothing to be that price, actually people in the developing world are subsidizing that garment. So they're paying for it, you're not paying for it in the high street, but someone's paying for it at several stages of that. And then with sustainable fashion as well, we're broadly using natural fabrics, quality is built in, our products are, the clothing is made to last. and that you're buying into fairness and a quality product. So that's broadly why sustainable fashion would be more expensive. The main thing is to stick with what you've got and take it as a challenge to be more creative with whatever you've got in your wardrobe. Once clothes become a bit old and tatty looking, then I would, my second tip would be to replace your polyester and fossil fuel based fabrics with natural fabrics, because that's not only good for the planet, it's better for your skin as well, and you'll feel like a real difference. And the other thing is just to have fun with it, just to not get down about it. There are people, if you can't make broad changes, then even one change will, if everyone makes one change, then collectively the numbers add up and it counts as a much bigger change. So just even small changes help.